I bid you welcome to another exciting edition of Sport Exchange right here on this channel. My name is Jide Olaniro, your regular host. On the show today, we'll be looking at the COVID-19 fund, relief fund as disbursed, as expected to be disbursed by the Nigerian Football Federation. There are other stories making round as far as the sports business is concerned on the continent of Africa and in Europe. Okay, also, we have a lineup, a take from a woman football journalist that will be talking to us in the course of the show. And also on the show, we'll be looking at eSports. These are the menu that we're prepared to be served. We're going to a short break, and when we come back, we'll be going straight to take the news.
Fantastically finished.
The Nigerian Football Federation has announced how it will disburse the COVID-19 relief funds from FIFA, CAF and other sponsors totaling $2 million. According to a press release from the Football House, its leadership, after a consultation with the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports, agreed to share the fund with stakeholders like the state FAs, football league bodies, national men and women football teams, referees and sport writers. NFF got $1.5 million from FIFA, $300,000 from CAF, while Coca-Cola and Nike paid $100,000 each to the body. The 20 clubs in the English Premier League will receive all of their prize money for the 2019-2020 season, having agreed to defer COVID-19 related rebates to broadcasters and spread them out over future seasons. It has been reported that the clubs will have to repay broadcaster roughly £330 million after the season was suspended due to the pandemic and then resumed behind closed doors in June. The club's decision to defer the repayments was taken at last week's annual general meeting of club chairman and chief executives because the league continues to negotiate the extent of the rebate with its 55 domestic and international broadcast partners, The Times reports. The Badminton Federation of Nigeria has unveiled Nollywood star Ali Nuhu as its latest brand ambassador. Nuhu, according to BFN, will help propagate the game in the country. The BFN president, Francis Obi, while expressing confidence in the move, says the involvement of Nuhu would pave the way for other celebrities from the northern part of the country to join hands with the Federation in making badminton one of the most popular sports in Nigeria. And lastly, in NBA, the National Basketball Association NBA has named Victor Williams CEO of NBA Africa. Williams is an investment banker with extensive experience growing businesses across the US and Africa. He will be based in the league's Johannesburg office and report to NBA Deputy Commissioner and Chief Operating Officer Mark Tatum. In this newly created role, Williams will oversee the league's basketball and business development initiatives in Africa and will be responsible for continuing to grow the popularity of basketball and the NBA across the continent through grassroots development, media distribution, corporate partnerships, and others. And that's how we wind up the news segment. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, I'll be going straight to the dugout segment where a colleague is waiting.
Fantastically finished.
Welcome back. Okay, joining me to discuss women football and the NFF COVID fund disbursement is sport journalist Latifa Ohio. It's a pleasure to welcome you onto the show. Latifa, how are you doing?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right, Latifa. The NFF just announced that they will be disbursing some funds to stakeholders. Looking at the breakdown, is there anything that really strikes you somehow?
I mean, it's so obvious when you look at it, even from the first three rows of that particular breakdown, and that was released yesterday. From the first row, we saw that they said FIFA support for restarting of football. Restarting of football means football in its entirety in the whole of Nigeria, which includes the men and women's football. They will restart perhaps the preparation for qualifiers or the league. And then we saw that FIFA has a dedicated support for the women's football. That is a dedicated amount from FIFA, nobody else. And then we have the CAF support and to the federations, and then that of the sponsors. But when you see the breakdown, it said $500,000 for the women's football from FIFA, and then we had $1 million for restarting of football. The CAF support and the sponsor is at $500, $200 and $300. But when you see the way they break it down to the extent that women's football did not get a penny from that 1.5 million that is left from the entire $2 million. And I begin to wonder why. Because women's football is part of Nigerian football. It's part of the NFF. It's part of the federation as a whole. So why is the women's football not getting a cent from the 1.5 million? Then we say that, okay, FIFA has already allocated $500,000 to the women's football, so they don't need to collect any other money from that. But if you look at it very well, do you mean that if FIFA hadn't allocated that amount of money, are you saying that the women's football will not get any of the share of the whole money? Which doesn't seem sensible enough for me. So somebody in the NFF really needs to come out and explain this. Many of them have tried to convince me yesterday, and I am still left unconvinced because it just doesn't look fair. It's not fair at all. And as NFF, as the body in the whole of Nigeria, they stand as the father of all federation or stratas in the federation. They need to be fair to every strata in the federation. But looking at this plan and the breakdown, it doesn't look like they are a fair body right now.
Do you see this as marginalization or a carryover of what has always been?
I mean, if you we've always heard from the NFF, they will say, oh, they are in for the women's football. They're in for developmental programs for women's football. They always say this at the front of newspapers or in interviews, but the action and and being deliberate are the things that are really, really missing on the part of the NFF. And now it has come to money matters now, and we are seeing that it's just not one of those things that is on their list of to-dos. Because if it is, because FIFA gave women's football $500, does not mean that $500 is enough for women's football to restart after the COVID-19 lockdown. I mean, look at when I checked the breakdown in the men's football, $300,000 was given to just the MPFL. Or if you look at the women's football, out of the $500,000 given to women's football by FIFA, it's just $200,000, let's say upwards of $200,000 that was allocated to the 4 leagues under the women's football, which is how are they going to manage that money? And you're saying the amateur league, they have 12 clubs, and each one will have $1,500. How much is that? It is so unfair. At least if they had Even the female football, let's say they give them like 100,000 or 200,000, I wouldn't be here complaining because I'll say, well, they've already gotten a lump sum of $500,000 from FIFA. So manage the remaining 200,000 given to you by CAF. What are you saying? Do you mean that the 300,000 given by CAF will not be allocated to the women's football? Because Nigeria women's team are also part of CAF. They play CAF competitions. They play leagues. So they have to get from this 300,000 and also the sponsors as well.
Okay. All right. I think, of course, your concern is noted. I know this is a conversation we'll keep going on the show. We hope that when we call on you next time, you will also oblige us so that we can continue this conversation for the improvement of women football. Thank you very much, Latifa, for joining me today. Okay. We'll go on a short break now, and when we come back, the program continues.
Fantastically finished.
Welcome back. The program is still Sport Exchange, and I'm your host, Gideon Lanaron. Joining me now to look at the eSports in Nigeria is the founder of Lagos eSports, Shayo Owolabi. Shayo, it's my pleasure to welcome you to our program, Sport Exchange.
Hi, Gideon. Great to be here. It's actually the Lagos eSports Forum. For clarification, Lagos eSports Forum.
Lagos eSports Forum. Anyway, it's okay, it's good, and it's all for the good of the game. Let's talk about the eSports in Nigeria. I know that you are a man of many ideas. And how did this start for you? The eSports campaign and the drive to see that the eSport grow.
Well, started years back. Interestingly, started years back when I was still running a bit of my radio shows. It's something that has caught my interest as a gamer myself. Though maybe not the popular games or the the big money spinning games in Europe, Asia, or in America. I used to play FIFA and PES, which is from the love of normal, not being able to play football professionally. You want to just test yourself on the console playing that. So the interest has always been there. For the Lagos eSports Forum, we actually had to take it to the next level with a few stakeholders coming together to put that up because of course, COVID showed all of us that everything was going virtual. And though we've not caught it here in Nigeria yet, eSports is a money spinner the world over. And an understanding of how this came about is very important, which is the template is the kind of template we're trying to create with the objectives of the Lagos eSports Forum, which is to educate, to engage, and to ultimately empower young people who will push your career and forge your career in esports. So that's how it started. Started years back, though people may not know that, but those who have related with me over the years know that I've always muted about esports and the potential it has in it. And I just decided to take it to the next level with the founding of the Lagos eSports Forum and the other guys who have joined me in actually forging this same task that we've taken upon ourselves. So yeah, on the whole, we can say years back, but in the last few months, we've taken it to the next level.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, you guys are doing great work. I must confess, you're doing well. But the thing is that, of course, looking at some of the challenges one will encounter, especially in an environment like this, you know what it takes, the structure that it takes to build this ecosystem. What are the things that you guys are grappling with at this point, or what do you think that this ecosystem needs to grow?
Well, what are we grappling with? Grappling with would be the cultural paradigm at the moment, and that's like I tell people, that's the same thing we had in the 80s and the early 90s when parents didn't want their children to play football. Maybe until after USA 94, and we saw our players move to big teams, the Okochas and the likes. Then after Atlanta 96, and people begin to hear what footballers end, with Kanu going to Inter Milan and ultimately finding himself at Arsenal. That was with traditional sports. That same condition young people found themselves in those years is the same thing we're finding ourselves now. Because a parent will naturally look at his child, maybe his or her child, maybe on the phone playing a mobile game, or on the console playing on a PlayStation or an Xbox or on the PC, and say, why are you wasting time? Meanwhile, on the other side, you've seen a 16-year-old win a $3 million. That's about 1 billion naira for playing a Fortnite game just for a few weeks or even a few days. And so that's the thing. The first challenge is the cultural paradigm, which of course we're trying to change with the education objective, through which we created the eSports conversation, where we're bringing different stakeholders from the world over to speak on different aspects of eSports to different people, those who register and become part of that eSports conversation webinar, which we created and has been running for the last 3 months. So yes, cultural paradigm. By the time we're able to get over that, then we can start talking about the big ones, which is data issues, bandwidth, and all that for those who want to play online gaming. But the truth is, before we even get to online gaming, why don't we start small, which is what we did with the mobile game tournament we started 2 weeks back. And then you can now do offline tournaments, and you can build gradually to the point where you can now say it's time to play the online big tournament. Then you can actually do all that. But most importantly, education is key, and that's where we're starting from.
All right, good. Thank you for that. There's this, usually the conflicts, within, people who want to get themselves into this ecosystem. That's is it a business this time, or is just one of the, just like the traditional conflict we've had with the main sport, other sports, the offline sports, where we don't know when to separate between recreation and making it a business. So,
anyone.
I hope you got that question,
let me
right?
get the last part. The last part
yes,
of the question.
I'm just saying, how do we solve this problem? This is also an ecosystem that is growing by what you said. But how do we make sure that we don't find ourselves in the same situation just like we have with other sports right now, that we are trying to, demarcate between when it is leisure and when it is business?
Well, I think as long as government does not come in to dominate, government can come in and provide infrastructure and provide a basis for people to want to come into it. But when government begins to come and compete with a game organizer to organize something in esports, then it becomes a problem. So that's the first thing. It should not be bedeviled with the bureaucracy we see in traditional sports. Though giving you a background information that has started already with the talks of the minister saying he's inaugurating a caretaker interim committee to run esports. You don't even go through all that. If you're going to, those who run it should run it as professionals and people who understand the ecosystem. Unfortunately, most of the people who are even coming public to talk about esports do not even understand the basic rudiments of esports, which is the fact that it is not just about console gaming. It's not even just about gaming. There are so many value propositions that is attached to esports. I can be a professional gamer, for example, but there are a lot of other things I can do in esports. You are a presenter on TV. You can be a shoutcaster in esports if you decide to switch a bit of career or even just jostle the two together. And those are the things people need to understand, that we can't go one way. So if we're going to separate it from the problems we're having with traditional sports at the moment, I would say let professionals, let people who have an understanding of the ecosystem be the ones in charge, not people who have a selfish interest, not people who have an ulterior motive, which we all know is all down to Esther codes, it's all down to ego tripping and saying, oh, I'm the president of this, I'm the chairman of that. No, it should not be about that. It should be about the greater good, and that would be you coming with an interest that has the next generation at heart. Because the truth is, I'm going into this thing knowing that I may not even be the ultimate beneficiary at the end of the day. It may be the next generation, but we would have laid a foundation that they would come in and they would just be running smoothly on rail on whatever we have laid as a foundation. Let's not forget, It's been years they've been running this thing in Europe, in America, and in Asia. We are just coming into it at this nascent stage, so we don't expect that we'll hit or strike gold at this in the next 2, 3, even 5 years. But hey, it can happen if we put our heart to it and get it right from the onset.
All right. Can you just take me through, of course, I know that you guys are planning a particular program which is about pathway to eSport education. Can you just briefly take me through the massive, potential in this particular eSport industry, especially with Nigeria now, because I'm not sure, I don't know whether you guys have the data, because very soon one of the things that we'll be talking about is that we'll be looking at the massive market, which I know that can entice the corporate world.
Well, the pathway to eSports education, which you mentioned, is actually put together by eSports Nigeria. The Lagos eSports Forum and the guys in charge of eSports Nigeria are actually partners in progress, if I can call it that. And we actually cross-pollinate ideas when we do our conversation. And now they are doing this and they're involving us. I will be moderating the session. Now, the thing about this upcoming webinar is the fact that it has the Nigerian panel and the US panel. At the moment in the United States, over, let me say, I don't have the exact data, but from my research, over 50 colleges have actually taken up esports as courses for people to pick up a degree, not just a diploma, not just a certification. They're picking a degree in esports. And over, in fact, uncountable number of high schools, and that's like secondary schools in this place, have taken up esports for children to study and at the same time play esports and see if they can forge a career the same way we see players from high school get into the NBA or get into the NFL from playing from secondary school, from high school into the going professional. And that's the same thing that this is coming about. So we're looking at how we can benefit from what they've been able to do. Now, there's the North American Scholastic Esports Federation, which they already have over there. And that is like the NSSF, which we have here, the Nigerian School Sports Federation. They have created that for esports. And those guys are going full on in driving kids getting into esports and seeing the potentials that lie in there. Like I said, there are many things that people can actually tap from this, that young people, that kids can tap from this. They can be professional gamers, they can be video editors, they can be shoutcasters, which is the broadcasters, they can be analysts, they can be marketers for esports events, they can be event organizers. The opportunities are so innumerable that if we actually get it right, all the complaints about lack of jobs and the limited jobs for people when they finish from school would actually be abated by the number of jobs we'll be able to create if we get it right to set up esports the way it should be in Nigeria. And I'm hoping that would happen in the shortest possible time.
All right. Let me say thank you very much, Shayo, for joining me on this conversation. I just want to wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Jide.
That was Shayo Ulabi, founder Lagos Esports Forum. Well, that's all we can take on today's show. Thank you very much for joining me on another edition of Sport Exchange. My name is Jide Olaniro. Until when next I come your way, make sure that you stay safe